Hey guys, welcome to this video on Saturn in Libra. If you have Saturn in Libra in your natal chart in astrology, this video is for you. I'm Cassandra, the Saffron Sage, helping you use astrology to evolve. And in this video, we're talking about Saturn in Libra. We'll talk about the challenges of this placement and what you can do to best work with this placement in your natal chart in astrology. So Saturn in Libra, Saturn restricts whatever it touches. Libra is the sign of the other and of communication. So immediately we know that the person with Saturn in Libra is going to have some challenges when it comes to communicating and when it comes to relationships with other people. So the kinds of communication the Saturn in Libra person will have problems with isn't just like writing out their feelings for their blog or something. This is the kind of communication that really builds partnerships. And what really is happening deep down for a Saturn in Libra person is they have a fear of being alone. The crazy thing about this placement is this fear of being alone actually causes itself to manifest, because they are so afraid of being alone that when they are like choosing potential partners in life, like romance, marriage partners, romantic partners, they will end up unconsciously choosing partners that later will kind of let them down. So for people with Saturn in Libra, especially as they get a little older, it isn't uncommon for them to look back on loveless marriages or relationships where that person was emotionally unavailable. So they could have attracted partners who were workaholics, who had a sickness, who, in the most extreme cases, maybe passed away, but really for one reason or another, they were distant. Okay, so distant, that is the word. Through long distance or through just their own personality, their obsession with work. It could be a number of things. But Saturn and Libra people will have these experiences with partners who are so distant, perhaps even cold. So the thing for the Saturn and Libra person to know is if they look deeply enough within themselves, they will find that fear of being alone is really the reason for all this. Because even though it seems opposite, it seems if you have a fear of being alone, you'd be with a close connected partner. But that's not how it manifests, because what happens is these people, these Saturn and Libra people, will feel that fear, and instead of going deeply into a connected relationship, they will protect themselves by keeping themselves at a distance from other people. Now, this usually does show up in romantic relationships, but it can show up in other relationships because Libra really is partnerships. It's the ability to, network and work your way up the ladder of success and balance the scales and bring justice. But for this placement, we see people who unconsciously do kind of put a wall up between themselves and others. Now, remember that wherever you have your Saturn can become your greatest strength, and we'll talk about that later in the video. But what happens for Saturn and Libra people is they can end up feeling this strong sense of isolation because they don't know how they're putting up those walls. They can't see that. So the work for the Saturn and Libra person is to see it, is to start looking if you're feeling isolated and if you're wanting to be more connected, to start looking for how you're putting those walls up and see that and break them down yourself. So what's really happening here with the Saturn and Libra person is they have this super unconscious, deep down fear of being alone, fear of being left, that kind of thing, that again causes them to unconsciously manifest being a little bit disconnected. It doesn't mean they won't have friends or they won't have, close people in their life, but they may just isolate themselves more than the average person. They may find themselves in relationships where they're longing for more affection or attention, or where they are giving and giving and giving and the other person is taking. It's possible this can manifest the other way, where the Saturn and Libra person just takes and takes and takes and never gives. But I feel it's more common that it's going to be the other way around, because Saturn is the planet of sacrifice. So it's like the Saturn and Libra person can give and give and give in their relationship, but never end up getting back what they really want. And sometimes this will happen with Saturn and Libra, where the person will give certain things thinking they're going to get them back, and be really confused and frustrated later down the road when that person doesn't return the favor. And so for those challenges, for that specific challenge, the Saturn and Libra person has to learn how, like, when to attach strings to things and when not to. And that, you know, life isn't always that balance of the scales, right? Sometimes you give and that person doesn't give back in that same way, right? And sometimes you get in a way and that person doesn't need you to give back. And so for the Saturn and Libra person, that can be a challenge, is to really see that life isn't always, I give you this, you give me that. And this even expands into marriage for the Saturn and Libra person. Some people with Saturn and Libra will actually feel like marriage is an exchange. They will go into it thinking, I give you this, you give me that. The fact that Saturn is here suggests that that simple way of dealing with it without overcoming or facing it or having any discipline involved with relationships is probably not going to be the most fulfilling for the Saturn and Libra person. So this is what can happen sometimes, is they can take a partner based on what they have to offer, you know, what kind of job they have or what role they have, and make it as an exchange of I do this and you do that. And then down the road, not understand why they're so isolated in relationships. So for the Saturn and Libra person who wants to overcome that, it's about allowing themselves to really know the other person, because that's what Saturn and Libra is. That's what Libra is knowing the self through the other, knowing the self through the other, and understanding and exploring and learning about the self through the other. And because Saturn is here, it suggests that these are not going to be easy lessons to learn. So learning challenge through the other, learning discipline, learning a little bit of hardship through your relationships with other people. That is the essence of Saturn and Libra. And just like any Saturn placement, this is the area of life where we tend to see other people doing fine, but it's harder for us. So in order to get the results and overcome and, you know, live with balanced Libra energy in your life, you have to work a lot harder on this particular topic, the topic of choosing your intimate partners, choosing your long-term relationships, the topic of even communicating and being able to, network and really have that give and take that you experience with other people. I also want to say there's a couple ways this can show up for most Saturn and Libra people. One is the isolation side, where they feel the fear of being known all the way, you know, of connectedness deep down, and they isolate themselves as a sort of protection mechanism. This can show up through just like being alone more, feeling alone in a crowded room, or other totally unconscious behaviors. The other side of the pendulum here is the person deep down feels this subconscious fear of being alone, and what do? They surround themselves with people. They're always with a partner. Why? Because then I'm never alone. And they're always doing things that are social. Become that social butterfly. Be able to just like talk a dog off a meat wagon and really hide and mask any fear there may be here. So whether it shows up that one side or the other, the deep down core issue is the same, which is it's just a simple fear of, you know, being connected to others, that fear of isolation that again will manifest itself. And so what the Saturn and Libra person needs to learn is, one, how do they choose their partners? They really have to work to make sure they are choosing partners and even good friends, any kind of partnerships where they are not going to end up doing all the work, or, you know, the other person is with them. And the way they do that is by, you know, in relationships, we have to give what we want to receive. And so the Saturn and Libra person has to use discipline to learn how to be in relationship in a way that lets the other person be who they are. So they're attracting people who really want to connect fully. there's a deeper connection available for the Saturn and Libra person than for really any other placement, because wherever we have Saturn, that's the potential to master, because we have to work so much harder for it. So Saturn and Libra people can learn, if they want to, if they want to master this Saturn, how to communicate in a diplomatic way, how to really make other people feel comfortable enough to feel kind of safe to be themselves. That's really the essence of kind of healing that Saturn in Libra. There's also that internal aspect of letting yourself feel safe enough to be yourself, letting yourself feel comfortable enough to let people in, and practicing that. The Saturn and Libra person, if they're in the middle of this challenge, this is something they'll have to work on. This is something they'll have to practice, is how to, let people get to know you. How to really go beyond just, this is my role and this is your role, into an actual true partnership. A true partnership where one person is there sometimes and the other person is there sometimes, and there's a give and take, but it's a healthy give and take, not a give and take that is destructive for either person. So that is what I have for Saturn and Libra. Let me know in a comment below, guys, if this made sense to you. I love hearing from you. You can also hit that subscribe button and the bell to get more videos like this. You can book a reading using the link in the description box below, and I will see you all in the next video.